This card don't read so good. Wake up. Best card in the set. What the hell is this? Best in show. All right, what's up, my friends? Welcome to the complete set review for Edge of Eternities. That's right, space. Space! And we're going over every card in the entire set. We're going over every card for constructed and limited. We're doing it by sections. We've already done white and blue. You missed those. Go watch them on YouTube, and please take a half second. Leave a comment, leave a like, support the content. A lot of work goes into this set review, all right? I'm home alone right now doing all this stuff. Nicole's on vacation, putting them up on YouTube, or whatever. So a lot of work goes in. Appreciate your support. I love you all. Don't forget that Bronze to Mythic will premiere on Tuesday, July 29th in the evening at 8 p.m. I'm stoked to draft this set, and I look forward to seeing you there. All right? Be there or be square, as they say. So let's get into our black cards here, give out our awards and so on and so forth, and rock and roll. First up is Alpharael, Stonechosen. 5 mana for a 3/3 mythic human cleric. It's got ward, discard a card at random, and it has the void ability. So this is a new ability. This thing Karn to the Void here. Void is a new ability where it is similar to Revolt. The Void ability triggers if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, or if a spell was warped this turn. Of course, warp being an ability in the set as well. And this is pretty different from Revolt in that it's non-land. So Revolt was a huge deal because of fetch lands, right? Fatal Push, the most famous Revolt card. Fetch lands made it really, really easy to trigger Revolt whenever you wanted. Void is more difficult to trigger. A thing has to actually leave the battlefield, whether it's, dying, being bounced, and so on and so forth. So Void's a little harder to trigger. Therefore, the effects are more powerful, which is pretty cool. So, but yeah, whenever it attacks, if a non-permanent left the battlefield this turn, or a spell was warped this turn, if any player loses half their life, round it up. That's not very good. Unstoppable Slasher is still in standard. Does this effect much better. This is more of a commander card, Ward, discard a card at random, sure, whatever. But 3 for 5 is pretty sketchy. It is on attack, not dealing combat damage. But yeah, this card is pretty bad. This is a fine limited card. You also have to trigger Void as well, which is not easy to do pre-combat. A lot of voiding is going to happen in combat when creatures die. So yeah, this is a commander card. Probably okay and limited, but not very exciting. We're just going to go on to the next card here. And the next card is Archenemy's Charm. No awards. No awards here. I love this Mega Cycle. So we have the Pip Mega Cycle. First it was Archmage's Charm, the blue version. Then we have Archdruid's Charm. Now we're getting Archenemy's Charm, with presumably the white and red ones to follow in future sets. This is black for an instant, and as a modal spell, it's got 3 abilities. Choose one. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Pretty good. Return 1 or 2 target creature cards and or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand. And then chapter 3 is put 2 ++ counters on a creature you control. It gains lifelink until end of turn. So this is a powerful card. As most of the charms are. Let me rephrase. This is a flexible card. It is not inherently a powerful card. Black to exile a creature or planeswalker is not great. That is a little better than Hero's Downfall. Exiling is quite powerful, but black is a pretty damn stringent mana cost, And then the double raised dead's kind of okay. The lifelink's kind of cool against aggro decks too. But realistically, this card is, each individual mode isn't really worth black. Sorry, Karn's being very distracting. I apologize. But yeah, so this card's pretty hard to cast, but it is pretty powerful. I think this card's going to be not that important in standard. The exile part is quite good. This is a pretty good answer to Kaido. We are losing Blot Out, which is currently the best answer to Kaido and Enduring Curiosity. This answers both of those pretty well. But the black cost is really, really tough. You need to have basically almost all the lands in your deck tap for black to play this card. So even like if you're a mono black deck, you want to play 4 Soulstone Sanctuary, it's a little awkward. But yeah, this card's pretty good. It's similar to the other charms where it's probably like a 1 or a 2 of, kind of flexible. But yeah, card's pretty good. It's not that hard to parse, honestly. So, and for limited, if you can cast it, it's very, very good. Very, very hard to cast. So yeah, you know, probably as an important role just because of the exile effect is so good against Enduring Curiosity and Kaido. But there you go. Beamsaw Prospector, 2 mana for a 2/1. When it dies, make a Lander token. A Lander token is a artifact with 2 tap, sack, and rampant growth. Really good limited card. These sort of, you know, black 2/1s that die into a piece of cardboard are pretty awesome. Good for sacrifice stuff, good for ramping stuff. There's not a lot of mana fixing in this set. There are no common dual lands, so we're pretty spoiled in the last like 10 sets where every single one has common dual lands. This set does not. So a lot of the fixing will come from these Lander tokens, which is pretty cool too. But yeah, good draft common, just good stuff. Blade of the Swarm, 4 mana for a 3/1. When this enters, choose one, put 2 counters on this creature, making it to a 5/3, or put target exiled card with warp on the bottom of its owner's library. This is a way to kind of mitigate the card advantage of warp, where they warp a card and you're able to kind of like nab it before they can use it. There was a card like this for Adventures as well. If you do that, you've got a 3/1 for 4, which is pretty bad, honestly. So this card is like kind of not great on both sides of the ball. As a 5/3 for 4, not very good. And then as a 3/1, they can exile a warp card, not very good either. I think this card is kind of a solution in search of a problem, where I don't think this card's good enough to kind of do the thing that it does. It's certainly okay, but pretty unexciting. Overall, There is some stuff that carries the possible encounters that could be a thing for that too, but for the most part, this is a limited filler card and not too much more. Coral of the Void. 4 mana for an enchantment aura. Enchant a creature you control. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking. And this card's pretty sketchy, where it's a creature aura of a cost 4. You need to put it onto your creature, then successfully attack, and they also have to have a worthwhile creature in their graveyard to steal, which is, you know, not a given. Then it has Void, beginning of your end step, sacrifices aura unless a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped this turn. So you get to keep the creature, but the aura will go away if Void did not trigger. I mean, if your opponent has good things to steal, like if they're playing Reanimator and you sideboard this in, they discard their, Atraxa whatever cards, they go, and you untap and just cast this and steal it, that's pretty good, But overall, this card's probably too finicky for serious play. It just asks too much of you both on your gameplay side, and then your opponent to also cooperate and have good things to steal too. So, yeah, interesting card, but probably not very good, more of a commander card. And then limited, I mean, I can see this card being okay in limited if they have some big stuff. A card you probably want to board in if they have like big idiots to kill. But like, again, you need to get to be a point in the game where you've already killed their big idiot and then want to steal it and also play with it successfully and also attack with it too. So a lot of hoops, kind of not super exciting. Comet Crawler. 3 mana for a 2/3 lifelink. Whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice a creature or artifact. If you do, +2/+0. That's pretty tough, I think you want to get a little more out of your sacrifice if you are using this as an out to sacrifice things than just +2/+0 for a lifelink. And then if you aren't sacking stuff, 2/3 lifelink for 3 is kind of mediocre. So I think this is pretty much a filler limited card. Just archetype specific. If you are playing a sacrifice deck and you can trigger this thing reliably, sure. But otherwise, it's not very exciting. Very late pick for sure. Dark Endurance. It's mana for an instant. Costs 1 less to cast if it targets a blocking creature. +2/+0, indestructible until end of turn. I love the design of this card. So a lot of times what you see in limited is that there's a huge divide between 1 mana and 2 mana tricks, where it's like, it is double. It feels like quadruple when it comes to like playability, where 2 mana tricks end up being pretty meh. They're kind of obvious. They're kind of hard to leave up, And 1 mana tricks are very tricky because maybe they just didn't have a 4-drop. Maybe they had 3-drop and a 3-drop, so it's hard to play around them. And I really love how this kind of is able to exist in like the 1.5 sort of space. And then specifically, it's better when you're blocking, because defensive tricks are much worse than offensive tricks. So if you play a defensive trick, I always say in Bronze Mythic, if you watch the show, try to not play your tricks defensively, because you are allowing your opponent to be completely untapped and dictate the attack before you can use your trick. So this thing being cheaper on defense is pretty cool. It's still not a great card because you typically still don't want to use your tricks defensively, but it's a cool way to try and solve that problem in a pretty clever design. Not a high pick, but a pretty cool limited card, and one you definitely need to watch out for. Decode Transmissions. 3 mana for a sorcery. Draw 2, lose 2. If you've managed to void, instead you draw 2, and your opponent loses 2. Kind of a cool card for an aggro deck, right? Where when you're thinking about the void card, you're trying to think about, okay, when are things going to die? How am I going to use this void card? And if you're playing an aggressive deck, things are going to trade in combat a lot. So you attack, you make a trade, post-combat, draw 2, you lose 2. That's pretty good. So I don't think this card's incredible. It doesn't affect the board in your aggro deck. But I think like this card seems pretty playable in an aggro deck where you just have turn 5, I send in my 2 guys, one of them trades, I draw 2, take you for 2, and go from there. Which is pretty cool. So, and there are, of course, sacrifice ways to turn on Void as well. So this card's kind of nice. I kind of like this card. It is definitely somewhat of an aggro card because I think that in a control deck, you want the 2 life that they're losing to matter also. I don't think that Black Divination is that exciting. So you want to get the upside too. But yeah, this is kind of a cool card. Again, kind of a late pick, but I think a card that can see play in aggressive or sacrifice-based black decks in limited. Depressurize, probably my least favorite wording in the entire set. 2 mana for an instant. Target gets -3/-0 until end of turn, and then if that creature's power is 0 or less, destroy it. So this is basically just destroy target creature if it has power 3 or less, but it can be a minus trick also, which is more of a blue thing. So I kind of just don't like the design of this card, but it's fine. 2 mana, kill a thing, power 3 or less, instant speed, sure. Be wary of pup spells that can blow you out, but this is a fine limited removal spell and not too much more. Dubious Delicacy. 2 mana for an artifact food with flash, ETB -3/-3. Sack to gain 3 or sack and they lose 3. Thank God this card costs 3, right? We don't need any more nurturing pixie, bounce whatever kind of cards in this format. So as it stands, good limited card. Constructed, I don't think this card's playable with 3 mana. But yeah, it's a removal spell that gains life. Cool. It's got flash. Not too hard to figure out what this card does. Elegy Acolyte. 4 mana for a 4/4 with lifelink. So a pretty good stat line for a rare. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card, you lose a life. So does not have the enduring curiosity effect of you can draw multiple cards. It's properly capped like a good, well-designed card should be. Yeah, I'm mad.
What can men do against such
reckless hate? I'm still mad about Enduring Curiosity. I'm not going to lie about it. I hate that card. But so it's capped. Then it has Void. Beginning of your end step, if you voided, make a 2/2 robot. This is a good card. The problem with this card is that for constructed, Enduring Curiosity still exists, for limited, this card's an absolute banger. 4/4 lifelink, make some trades, make some 2/2s, draw some cards. Card's really good. The abilities work really well together because I have a 3/3 in play, I play those on turn 4, and I attack. And if you don't block, I draw a card. And if you do block, I get a 2/2, which is great. So this card's quite good. I can see this card having an outside shot in constructed, but certainly has a lot of competition. But in limited, this card is a windmill slam first pick. Really powerful card. Has the ability to affect the game the turn you play it, which is great. Embrace Oblivion. 1 black sorcery, sack artifact creature, destroy a creature or spacecraft. You've seen this card 1,000 times. It's a good limited card. You know what it does. You've seen it 1,000 times. Cool. Entropic Battlecruiser.
It's a trap.
Akbar, tell him. This card, I know all you discard fans that you love your discard decks. This card's not it, all right? 4 mana for a spacecraft that does stone nothing the turn you play it, unless you have creatures around. Station is the ability to retap creatures to get counters onto it. Once you've stationed it with basically anything, when your opponent discards a card, they lose 3 life. But this does not make anything discard until later. And then once you've crewed it for 8, it is a 3/10 flying death touch, which is a good sized body, Whenever it attacks, each opponent discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 3 life. This card just isn't good. It looks pretty appealing. I know folks love discard kind of cards. That's why it's a trap card. But this card asks so much of you. And then is played at a point in the curve where you've ideally already had your opponent discard all their important cards. So just not a very good card. In limited, this card's pretty good. You know, just crew it up. It's huge. Win the game with it. You know, it's a little clunky, but if you know win con, can do that. But yeah, this is a pretty high cost on the stationing stuff. And for constructive, this card is an absolute non-starter. So, trap card. Sorry, all you Waste Not fans. But yeah, there you go. Entropic Battlecruiser. Again, really cool art, but not a great card. Faller's Faithful. 2 mana for a 3/1. We have a human wizard that enters, destroys a creature. If it wasn't dealt damage this turn, its controller draws 2. So, we see this like finish off a creature kind of card fairly often. Where you get to play it and finish off a creature that was dealt damage. Those cards don't play very well. This card, however, can just off a creature, Ravage Chupacabra style, but your opponent will draw 2. Now, note that you can target your own things as well. So you have a 1/1 token, you can just kill it and then draw 2. That's kind of cool as well. This is a pretty flexible card. It does a lot of flexible things where you can kill your own stuff and draw cards. You can finish off a big creature. You kill your opponent's bomb. And the rate's not bad either. 3/1 for 3 is fine. So this is a pretty fun limited card. Pretty flexible, pretty fun. I believe this is like one of the cheapest, FTK kind of effects we've seen in quite a long time. So if there is some sort of like creature-based deck that wants a tutor target that can kill a creature, this can do that. But yeah, kind of a cool card. I think much better in a deck where you have your own things you want to kill to draw cards. It's like a sacrifice deck. But yeah, this card's cool. Pretty interesting design. Looks pretty fun to play with. Fell Gravship. 2 mana for a 3/2. ETB mill 3. Return a creature, spacecraft card, station 8 or more, flying and lifelink 3/2. I mean, I feel like this card was made by AI. Like, you're just like, hey, AI, make a black station spacecraft that does the reanimate thing, But yeah, this card's going to be okay, I think. When you do crew this thing, a 3/2 flying lifelink is pretty damn good. And you do get the card advantages in the mill, too. So this card's pretty good. I think it's going to be a good limited card. Nothing more than that. But pretty nice. Good grindy limited card. Green-black graveyard is, the usual limited mechanic for Golgari. But Gravblade Heavy. 4 mana for a 3/4. As long as you control an artifact. This is a +1/+0 and Death Touch. So if you just have any artifact in play, this is a 4 mana 4/4 Death Touch. That's pretty good. Assuming you have an artifact in play, which, if you build your deck right, this card will almost always be on. 4/4 Death Touch for 4 is pretty good. So, not an amazing card, not a high pick, a card you definitely won't always play. But if you're looking for a 4-drop for your draft deck with a bunch of artifacts in it, this card is reasonable enough. Gravkill. Again, more awesome art, man. Let me tell you. 4 mana for an instant, exile creature or spacecraft. This is your bread and butter, black limited removal spell. Will be one of the best commons. Watch out for your spacecraft. If they put a lot into a spacecraft and you kill it, it's a pretty big deal. So that's cool. But yeah, nothing really more than that. Gravpack Monist. I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to call this the Bombin Common. I'm not sure about this one. There's actually another really good common I like as well. But this one's cheaper. This is a 3 mana 2/1 flyer. When it dies, make it 2/2. That's pretty good. So the problem that Wind Drakes have in Limited is that they don't block well at all, and they don't really do enough on offense to warrant that. The drawback of being on the draw, you play a Wind Drake on turn 3, you can't really block, you're kind of in behind and in trouble. This card blocks great, block or 2-drop, whatever, and gets 2/2, which is great. It's a flyer. They gotta kill it eventually if it's a flyer. You get a 2/2, awesome. I think this card's just good. Just a lot of value for 3 mana at common, which is great. Pretty big fan of this card. Doesn't need much to be good either. It's just does the thing, here it is, does the thing, has some synergy as well, but just is a fine card. So Bombin Common for black for me is Gravpack Monist. Again, I try to choose the cards I think that are really interesting for limited. It's probable that their removal spell is just, a higher pick, but this is like a really obvious baseline thing. Whereas, this card I think is going to be a more important card for your actual draft deck and more important to the format as a whole. So Gravpack Monist is your Bombin Common for black. Hullcarver, 1/1 Death Touch artifact. If you know me, watch Bronze Mythic, you know I'm a big fan of 1/1 Death Touch creatures in Limited. They block well, they attack reasonably well also. Nothing fancy here, but this is a good bread and butter common, and that's really it. Being artifact is nice too, but yeah, good stuff. Hylderblade, 1 black for an equipment. Creature gets +3/+1. Equips for 4 and has Void. Beginning of your end step, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped, attach this to a creature. This card, I think, is going to play really well. So, ideally, you are never paying 4 for the equip on this card. You're going to attack, make a trade, play a new creature, and then play this thing. End step, equip, right? And then the next turn, you attack with it. Because it's so large, they have to block and trade with it. It trades, play a new creature, end step, auto-equip. And kind of just follow that run where the sequence is just every turn, something dies, and you have next creature is even bigger. So I think this card's sweet. I think this card's pretty cool. Going to play better than it looks. I think this card's just really, really nice. Cool card for aggro decks in black. Just sweet. And then, of course, worst case scenario, in the late game, if you're flooded, pay 4. Okay, but whatever, cool. So I think this card's really nice. Really, really cool limited card. One to watch out for if you're drafting or playing Sealed, because I think this card is very good. Hymn of the Faller. What does Kylo Ren say? I don't even remember. Some Kylo Ren line. It's just Kylo Ren. What do you want me to tell you, right? 2 mana for a sorcery. Surveil 1. Draw a card. Lose 1. However, if you voided, you draw 2. So 2 mana Surveil 1. Draw 2. Lose 1 is quite good. But you have to avoid it. And again, voiding is much more difficult than Revolt is because you can't crack a fetch land. So I think this card is pretty good. But I do think that the fail case of this card is quite bad. 2 mana cycling lose 1 is not a desirable Magic card. So I think this card is, I think if you're pretty heavily sacrificing stuff or whatever else, even killing things, you can kill their thing and then trigger void as well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little iffy on this card. I think this card is just the floor is a little too low. And the ceiling is not quite high enough. So I think overall this card's a little iffy. I think it could be good, but I'm not thrilled about it. Insatiable Skittermaw, 3 mana for a 2/2 with Menace. Has Void, end step. If an online part of the battlefield is whatever, Void, put a counter on this creature. I mean, limited filler. Ideally you'll play this after a trade. It'll be a 3/3 Menace, and then maybe it gets bigger later. Probably just trades or dies the next turn. And then, of course, the floor is really bad here. So I think this card is, just limited filler and nothing else. Lightless Evangel, 2 mana for a 2/2. Uncommon. Whenever you sacrifice another creature or artifact, put a counter on this. It's a good card. We just had the black-white version of it that was much better, right? It was whenever a creature dies, you get a counter, and it's menace and stuff. So power-wise here, this is a little lower on rate than usual. But still a very good limited card. The kind of card for Constructed that probably won't see play. But there's a really good sacrifice enabler we'll see in a little bit. But yeah, I think this card could see play Constructed. It's a great limited card if you're doing a sacrifice thing. And the floor is great. So good card. I'm a fan. Monoist Circuit-Feeder. 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer. ETB until end of turn. Target creature you control gets +X/+O. And target creature opponent controls gets -0/-X. Where X is the number of artifacts you control. I mean, if you're playing a blue-black control artifact deck, this is a perfect curve topper. ETB, kill a thing, pump your thing, awesome. Really, really cool. Clunky, expensive, not a super high pick, I don't think. You'd much rather have your curve top off on a 5 mana mythic than a 6 mana uncommon. But if you are looking for a good top end card for your controlling draft deck with lots of artifacts in it, this is it. Monoist Sentry. This is one of the cooler cards in the set. 1 black, 4/1 Defender. This card feels very similar to the 1/1 Death Touch, right? It is very often just going to block a thing and trade. It can't attack, but that 4 power is quite good when you're trying to crew up. This is a 1-drop that crews for 4 on your spaceships. And then be aware it also can crew, vehicles and whatever else from other sets too. So This is the kind of card where it's so unique that I think it could maybe potentially have a shot in Constructed doing some weird kind of thing. Probably not, but pretty cool. And then Limited, this card just like a great blocker that will crew your stuff and do some pretty cool things. Love it. Love the design here. Love the simplicity. The elegance of a Magic card that can have one word on it and a couple numbers and still feel very interesting and make you go, oh, wow, that's really cool, is great. Love it. Chef's kiss. Perigee Beckoner. 5 mana for a 4/5 common. When it enters till end of turn, creature you control gets +2/+0. When it dies, return to the battlefield, tap its under control, and it has warp as well. This card's kind of cool, where you can warp it for cheap. This card is definitely a more than the sum of its parts kind of card, where the warp being cheap helps turn on your void thing. So don't forget, the void is never things leave the play, or if you've warped a card. So warping does trigger void as well. And then there's just like, 2 mana, push some damage. And then for 5, play it, push some damage, and then kind of go from there. 4/5 for 5 isn't the worst body ever. So it's certainly clunky and expensive. It's certainly common filler. If it had flash, it'd be insane. But I think this card is kind of cool if you're in that void space and you're desperate for a way to do some cool stuff. It's kind of cool. Pretty sweet. Requiem Monolith, 3 mana for an artifact. Until end of turn, target creature gains, whenever this creature is dealt damage, you draw that many cards and lose that much life. Then that creature's controller may have this artifact deal 1 damage to it as a sorcery. So you have a really weird Phyrexian Arena style card where you can just tap this thing, ping a creature, and draw a card. Cool. Do it once turn. But you could also target your opponent's creature and then lightning bolt it. Draw 3, lose 3. You can't do that often because you will just freaking die, but it's kind of a cool thing to have access to. It's kind of a cool, like, unique ability. You could build like a a black-red kind of like, burn control something deck. I don't know. Kind of interesting. It does work with your own creatures and as well as their creatures. Although note, their creature won't take 1. It's only your own creature, so you can't like ping their stuff. But yeah, weird card, kind of obtuse. Pretty cool with in limited, and then in constructed, maybe you can build around it. Lightning Helix is kind of cute. That's fun. But yeah, interesting card. Kind of a fun design. Scrounge for Eternity. 2 mana for a sorcery. Additional cost to play with spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Return creature or spacecraft card mana value 5 or less from graveyard to the battlefield, and then make a lander token. Being capped at 5 mana makes this card pretty unappealing. You need to have a thing you want to sacrifice, a thing in the graveyard you actually want, and then you get paid off, and you can just like play a threat, play a different threat kind of thing. So I think this card's kind of sketchy. It's pretty cool in like green black if you're like really milling super hard, like doing cool graveyard stuff. But this is mostly just a limited card and a finicky one at that. I don't think a juice here is worth the squeeze. Not super exciting. Too many hoops, not enough payoff. Sothera, the Supervoid. It's a powerful card. 4 mana for a legendary enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent chooses a creature they control and they exile it. This is Gravpack, but your opponent exiles, not sacrifices. Beginning of your end step, if the player controls no creatures, sacrifice this and put a creature card exiled with it on the battlefield under your control with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it. So there are 2 things here that I like a lot. One is that it makes it so this Gravpack design is not permanent, all right? It feels really, really bad when your opponent's got a Gravpack to play with 5 tokens and you just have nothing, and you're just like, I just could never, ever play a creature for the rest of the game. That sucks. That's a bad feeling. It's not good gameplay. This thing has a buyout. You're going to get a payoff for the buyout, but at least that sub game of I can never have a creature in play ever ends. So that feel bad kind of goes away and you have a new hoop to conquer. So this card is pretty unbelievable and limited, as Gravpack was as well. It's easier to cast than Gravpack is. I could definitely see this card seeing play constructed, probably more as a sideboard card for like creature mirrors at a sacrifice decks. But this card's good. This is a very powerful card. Do not underestimate how powerful this Gravpack effect is. And don't forget, there are some pretty good sacrifice things in this set for constructed. And Sephiroth is also in the last set too.
I know that guy.
Card's really good. So yeah, card is an absolute limited bomb, and a card that I think we'll see playing constructed as well. Sunset Saboteur, to mana for a 4/1 menace. War, discard a card. Whenever it attacks, put a +++ counter on a creature and opponent controls. An actual factual drawback on a Magic the Gathering card here in 2025, the year of our Lord.
Inconceivable!
I couldn't believe it either. And this card is sweet for multiple reasons. One, it's just a 4-power 2-drop with menace, which you don't usually see. If your opponent's not playing creatures, that's really good. And even if they are, this is another card that crews really, really well. This can crew, whatever. Can crew a lumbering world wagon. It can crew your spaceships and so on and so forth. So this card's sweet. This card is super, super nice. I don't know how good it is. I don't know if this card is worth the squeeze. It's pretty easy to kill. I think that menace too. This card's pretty good. This card kind of slaps. I think this card's pretty good. With the menace, it really sells me on this card. Yeah, this card's cool. I like this card a lot. I don't know if it's insanely good because the drawback is kind of reasonable, but yeah, the card's nice. And if your opponent's not playing creatures, this card is absolutely bonkers. In limited, this card's probably more exciting as a crew than an actual creature, but it seems pretty good too. So, and it's also an outlaw for Shoot the Sheriff, which is kind of nice as well. Susurian Dirgecraft, 5 mana for a 4/3. When it enters, each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature, and it has 7 or more crustacean 4/3 flyer. Reasonable. I like the non-token clause here. 5 mana Edict is a little rough, but 7 is not too bad on the crew. The 4/3 flyer is I don't know. This card it seems finicky. A lot of the spacecraft seem pretty finicky. They seem kind of small and kind of a pretty heavy station costs, but it's 2 for 1. It's pretty cool. So I think this card's all right for limited. We'll see. Will be good in certain matchups for sure. Susurian Voidborn, 2 mana for a 2/2. Whenever this creature or another creature or artifact you control dies, target opponent loses 1 and you gain 1. So you have a 2/2 Blood Artist that also cares about artifacts. And it's got Warp. That's kind of sweet where this is kind of combo-y where you can warp this in, player sacrifice outlet, kill your opponent all in one shot, which is kind of nice. 3 mana is a lot to actually cast this card, but the warp ability is kind of cool too. This card's cool. Then again, there's a lot of sacrifice things happening in the set, a lot of blood artisty stuff and sacrifice stuff. More on that in a little bit. This is a great limited card, and a card I think has a reasonable shot in constructed as well. What's up, Pip? Thanks for reading this up. Next up is Swarm Caller, and this is a card I think could also have won Bombin Common, and may end up being the best common in black in the set. 4 mana for a 2/4 flyer, pretty good stat line. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you may sacrifice a creature or artifact. If you do, draw a card. So this is a common card draw engine and void enabler, which is pretty sick. That's pretty powerful. You can tap to crew things immediately, sacrifice lander tokens, sacrifice whatever tokens are floating around, turn on void, so on and so forth. Card's very powerful. The reason why I gave the other card Bombin Common over this is that 3 is less than 4, and the other card asks less of you. This card will only be okay in some decks, and it'll be great in some decks, whereas that 2/1 flyer just seems like it's good most of the time. But this card seems very, very good. Feels like kind of a format-defining common, where if you have a good sacrifice deck with 2 of these, you're going to be in a great spot. But card's cool. Really cool design. Like it a lot. Great common. Could have easily been Bombin Common. And again, I would not be surprised if at the end of the day, this ends up being the best black common of the set. Temporal Intervention. 2 mana for a sorcery void. This is a Thoughtseize, where if you avoid it, it costs 1, not 3. Now, of course, not super easy to void all the time, especially early. A lot of the draw to Thoughtseize is it's so cheap on turn 1. This card is not really a turn 1 play, although you can Mishra's Bauble this in theory, or like Lotus Petal or whatever. But I think on turn 3 or 4, having the sack a thing, do a thing, cast this for 1, that's pretty cool. So I think this card's pretty playable. I think this card's probably better in constructed than in limited, but a good sideboard card in limited too. Card's kind of cool. We'll see how easy it is to void stuff and kind of go from there. Timeline Color. Listen, you can't sneak a Bloodghast by me, all right? I love a good Bloodghast, and Timeline Color is a pretty damn good Bloodghast. Black for a 2/2 with haste. Notably, it can block. That's right, it can block. That's great. And it has, you may cast this card from your graveyard using its Warp ability. Warp for 1 back and pay 2 life. It comes into play. It has haste, so it's the rare warp haste card. You can attack with it or crew. And then it goes into the warp zone, and you can hardcast it again and have haste again the next turn. So this card is hell on earth for control players and for grinding matchups. It's aggressive. It beats. I'm a huge fan of this card. I think this card's awesome for self-mill stuff. You can just like dump it in the graveyard, blood gas style, bring it back with the warp. You are always casting it, so it's not as like as truly upsidey as blood gas can be. We were playing it for free. But it definitely has Tenacious Underdog vibes, and this card's nice. The black holds it back a little bit. But yeah, big fan of his card. I think his card is a big-time constructed sleeper, and also is a great limited card, assuming you can cast it. Awesome. Love, love, love it. Tragic Trajectory, 1 black sorcery, -2/-2. Void, -10/-10. So clearly, this is a tragic slip / disfigure kind of card. 1 black -2/-2 is is a kind of a staple card at instant speed. At sorcery speed, it's a lot worse. And then we have Void -10/-10, where it will kill almost anything. However, Void is much more difficult to turn on than Revolt is. So Fatal Push is the best black kill spell probably of all time, because of how easy it is to turn on with fetch lands and stuff. Even without fetch lands, it's still really, really good. This card's a little worse in that respect. Sorcery speed, but this is also a kill spell that can just kill anything for 1 mana and constructed, which is pretty great. And this feels like a constructed playable removal spell for a sacrifice deck. And the fact that it actually has a front side, unlike Tragic Slip, which can't really kill anything, is really nice. So this card's good, definitely playable, phenomenal limited card, and this card will definitely show up in constructed. And yeah, sweet. Looks pretty cool. Umbral Collar Zealot. Well, I've been teasing this card now for the entire black section, and here is your Unbounded Sacrifice Outlet in black. Once again, folks, if you see a 2-mana 3/2 at uncommon, rare, or mythic, Wizards of the Coast wants you to play that card. All right? Just listen to them. Just listen to what they're saying, and they're telling you with that stat line what it is, all right?
Yeah.
So, 2-mana 3/2, sacrifice creature, artifact, surveil 1. That's it. There's no only once a turn. There's no pay 1 mana. That's it. You can just sack your whole board, and you can Blood Artist them out, old school Nantuku Husk style. And now we're seeing this card join up with the black-white card, can do a similar thing, Bartholomew or whatever, and multiple Blood Artists. Alongside Sephiroth, we are looking at a pretty serious potential, like Aristocrats kind of sacrifice deck of the vein we haven't seen in quite a long time. Furthermore, Surveil is great here. You have to fill your graveyard up. So as you go through sacrificing things, you're not just scrying and leaving a card on top. You're actually putting cards in the bin, and maybe you get, you're filling your graveyard for a reanimation spell, whatever else it might be. So this card is great. Really, really powerful card. Gonna be a player in Constructed for sure. Gonna be player in Limited. I think that is there a Unbounded Sack Outlet in Pioneer? Probably, right? But yeah, this card's great. Really, really good card. It's surprising that they went from not wanting to print a sacrifice a creature do this thing card for like a decade, and now they've made 2 in the last 2 years, and they're both quite good. Surprising to say the least, but very, very powerful. Card's great, really powerful, great limited card too. Umbral Collar Zealot. It's an uncommon, folks. Pick them up. Virus Beetle returns. It's Ravenous Rats. It's an artifact. This card's going to be great. There's sacrifice things. There's artifact things. You know what this card does. Great limited card. Not much more to say. Voidforged Titan. 5 mana 4, a 5/4. Void. End step. If a non-permanent void, whatever. Draw a card, lose a life. This is a great limited card. Phenomenal. Attack, trade, turn 5, play this, draw a card. You're already pretty far up, and if the game keeps going, you're doing it. So, great limited card. There's not much more to say, honestly. Vote out. Is this an Among Us reference? That's pretty fun. See, this is the kind of reference that I like, where it's kind of infrequent, and it's kind of like, oh, cool, that's fun. It's not just every goddamn card being referenced something, That's fun. I like this. So democracy is not always just. Great stuff. So this is just 4-mana sorcery, convoke, create, destroy a creature. Kind of a weird card, because we had a rare version of this that was an instant that also killed planeswalkers and surveilled, rotating out. And that card I thought would be good and ended up not being good. So this is just a limited card. Limited rule spell, nothing more. Xu-Ifit, Harmonist. Black 1 for a 2/3, legendary creature. This can reanimate creature cards from your graveyard, but they're skeletons and they have no abilities. So, kind of interesting. You can put some big dumb idiot and just get it back. This is a very, very cheap, very, very, easy reanimation, but not getting any abilities is like what makes a lot of the, these cards kind of cool. I don't know. This is a weird one. Random Phyrexian Dreadnought in your graveyard. Okay, cool. Bring it back. Boom. You got a 12/12 right now kind of thing. So, I don't know. Kind of a fun card. It reminds me honestly of like a Marvel Snap card where you think about, okay, how can I make use of a card with no abilities? I don't know. It reminds me of Marvel Snap. I don't know what to tell you. But pretty fun card. Pretty cool. Go with big idiots. Go with big cycling cards as well. Just a big dumb cycler or whatever. It's kind of cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Card's fun. Not sure if it's competitive or not, but pretty fun. And limited this card's great. Just like bring a guy back, bring a guy back, bring a guy back, And there's no caveats here. No finality counter. No, if you already have a skeleton, you can't use this. So this is a bonkers limited card, actually. And then this just keeps pooping out guys from your graveyard. It's pretty cool. This card's cool. I like this card. Pretty fun. 0-point ballot. Black X sorcery. Destroy all creatures toughness X or less. You lose X life. If X is 6 or more, return a creature card and put this card... return a creature card, put into a graveyard this way, under your control. Interesting card, where it's kind of like, sort of like, whatever that card, Toxic Deluge. Sweepers that lose life are a little rough because you're trying to defend yourself. And if X is 6 or more and you're losing 6 life, that is a lot of life to lose when you're trying to keep yourself alive. So, kind of a weird card. If it's kind of like a black Pyroclasm in some ways, but the life loss is kind of tough. I don't know. I think this card's kind of iffy. It's kind of cute. It's certainly an interesting card. But I don't think this card is particularly great. So, yeah. It's kind of just like a weird Pyroclasm, But, yeah, I don't know. Weird card is what it is. So, to recap, black, best in show, Umbral Collar Zealot. We've got sleeper card, Timeline Culler. Our trap card is Entropic Battlecruiser. And our Bombin Common is Gravpack Monist. So, red is next. YouTube folks, like, comment, subscribe, watch the stream, make sure you follow. Support the content, folks. Again, a lot of work goes into a set review. Your support makes that possible. Do my best to put out a fun set review for you guys. I hope you all are enjoying it. So, like, comment, subscribe. Red is coming up.